Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the WellSteps webinar. We are delighted to have you on this webinar today. We're particularly thankful that Dr. Stephen Aldana will be the presenter today. The webinar topic for today is Wanted Simple and Effective Wellness Incentive Programs. We've been absolutely blown away by the number of people who have registered for this webinar. We've got about 500 of you on the webinar today. Many of you know Dr. Stephen Aldana, and so he really needs no introduction, but I will anyway. This is Dr. Troy Adams. I've had the good fortune of being his business partner for about 5 years now. Steve is the author of a whole bunch of academic papers. When we were both academicians, we actually used to count the number of academic papers, but now that we're recovering academics, we no longer count, we just say a bunch. He is continually involved in the research. He's done work with HERO and a whole host of other groups out there who are on the forefront of research and evaluation in the wellness industry. He is also authored several books. His upcoming book, The Culture Clash, How We Win the Battle for Better Health, has been much anticipated. He did a webinar on this book, the topic, basically back in January, and the vast majority of the people on the webinar were, I've never seen this in a webinar, but they were engaged in a standing ovation at the end of the webinar. There were a few people who were ready to clunk him over the head, but all in all, people loved the topic. He's provocative, very thoughtful, and very one of the people that you go to if you've got questions about anything in this industry. In fact, many industry leaders, consultants, and brokers have used his brain to help them do what they do better. Just a couple of things you need to know about this webinar today. First of all your phones have been muted, and so we can have a nice quiet environment on the webinar today. You can ask questions, though. It is interactive. There is a GoToWebinar control panel that you should see on the right-hand side of your computer screen. You'll notice that in that control panel, there is a spot for you to type questions. You'll just go ahead and type your questions in there. There are two people, Ryan and Allie from our team, who are behind the scenes on the webinar today. They'll be answering your questions as they come in. They'll help you with audio difficulties. They'll let you know where the slides are posted. That's probably the most common question we get, so I'll get to that in a minute. And then some of the best questions, and we'll save till the very end, and Dr. Aldana will handle those questions toward the end. As I mentioned, most of the questions we get are, where can I get the slides? At WellSteps, we've long had a practice of not only producing great webinar content, but sharing our resources freely with everyone out there, including PDFs, articles, white papers, case studies, but also our slides, which we spend an awful lot of time developing. So we hope you're taking those and using those to help educate people on the truth about wellness. The recording of this webinar will be posted about 2 or 3 hours after the webinar has concluded. I'd like to remind you that at the very end there are some survey questions. One of the ways that we get our topics for these webinars is to carefully evaluate what it is that you've told us you'd like to learn more about. And you can do that in the evaluation questions toward the end. So it is with great pleasure and honor, and without further ado, that I will introduce Dr. Steve Aldana, our presenter today, Wanted Simple and Effective Wellness Incentive Program. Steve, it's all yours.
Thanks, Troy. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to remind you that we have Ryan Isaacson manning the questions and doing behind-the-scenes work with us today. And joining us halfway through will be one of our outstanding WellSteps guides, Allie Rickard, to show you a very clear example of how incentives can, one, boost participation in terms of engagement, really boost engagement, and show you how a very low-cost incentive strategy that anybody can implement in any wellness program can really make a big difference in what you're doing. Which brings me to the question of our webinar today, which is really this. Why are we here? What are we trying to accomplish today? What are we trying to do, and how do incentives make our lives better? I'm going to give you my perspective, having looked at an awful lot of companies and studied this for years. And by the way, just recently we just completed reviewing the applicants for the C. Everett Koop Award. I'm on the Koop board, and I have a few materials to share with that. This information I have is a compilation of what research do we have that works, what's the best practices, what are companies doing right now, what's really going on. I love this topic. I'll be perfectly honest with you. As geeky and nerdy as I am, I love this topic for one reason. The use of incentives under motivation gets people to start down this path. My juices get flowing at WellSteps when we see large populations of people adopting and maintaining healthy behaviors. So I look at it as one of the most powerful ways we have to improve public health, the most powerful ways we have to improve the health of our employees. And this little graph that I'm showing you now is really how this works. Our behaviors drive our health risks. Our behaviors are things like what we eat, whether or not we exercise, whether or not we wear seatbelts, get a flu shot, the physical actions that we do to improve our health. If we don't do these actions, we develop elevated health risks, high blood glucose, pressure, cholesterol. You understand this. Those are the predictors of the chronic disease, and now we're on our way to employee-related expenses. This is why we all exist. This is why brokers are being engaged in this discussion, because they're focusing on employee-related costs. Healthcare professionals and wellness professionals around the country are engaged in this discussion because we're focusing on improving employee health and controlling employee-related costs. At the end of the day, we're here. You, me, Dr. Adams, all of us, we're here to improve the lives of individuals. That's why we do what we do. All of this starts with behavior. What we do action-wise, what are the physical actions that we go through, good or bad, is what really starts this process off. And the focus of all of our efforts is here, literally, on behavior. So when you look at it in this context, what we are doing in the wellness world is we are behavior change specialists. If we can get individuals to change from unhealthy behaviors to healthy behaviors, we're going to impact health risks, chronic disease, and employee-related expenses. Now, not all health risks or chronic diseases are directly related to unhealthy behaviors, but almost all are. There's a genetic component here. There are a variety of genetic conditions that are inherited that are not guaranteed to occur in an individual who has those genes, but more likely so. Okay, I admit they are there, and we do screening and we try to do what we can with that group, but the clear majority, 70 to 90% of all elevated health risks and all chronic diseases are behavior related. It is the core of what we're doing. Now, how do you do this? How do we change their behaviors? This is my next favorite slide. My favorite slide in the whole wide world. It's 4 things. The behavior change secret sauce is this: education and awareness, motivation, giving people skills and tools they need to change behaviors, and then creating an environment, implementing policies, social support to help them do it. This is actually just a small, simple aggregation of all of the really horribly complicated and ugly behavior change theories and models that are out there. Today, we're looking right here. We're looking at the motivation piece. What motivates you to have healthy behaviors? Let me ask the question on a personal note for everybody listening today. Pick a behavior that you have, a healthy behavior. Exercise, eat a healthy breakfast, don't smoke. You pick one. Now ask yourself this question. Why do you do that? Let's say it's exercise. Why do you make time to go out and exercise on a regular, consistent basis? What causes you to do this? That's our motivation. The motivation varies by person, but there's really about 4 or 5 major categories. Fear, the benefits we get, pure pleasure, peer pressure, or the thought of getting some type of incentive. So think about your own behaviors and why you do what you do. Is it fear? Dr. Aldana, you exercise every day, you go out and you try to make time to do this, and it takes valuable time. Do you do this so you won't get heart disease? No, I don't. In fact, I got this question from one of my family members the other day. You know, religions are always asking people to do this and don't do this, and I don't really like organized religion because people do good things out of fear. And I thought about it, and I thought, I could understand that perspective, hellfire, damnation, when I'm going to scare, we use the phrase scare the hell out of you as a pejorative term to say we want to fear you out of not doing bad things. I don't do those kinds of things out of fear. I do good deeds. I do regular exercise because I like the way I feel. I feel happy. I feel peace. I feel good. You see, it's not out of fear. Some people we do a lot of things out of fear, but this isn't one of them. We do it for the benefits. We do it for the pleasure. We do it for maybe the peer pressure. Oh, fine, I'll go with you. And maybe, for some people, maybe incentives are part of that motivational structure. So what I want you to understand, the webinar today is on incentives. But incentives are a fairly small piece of a larger basket of motivational factors. And our motivation is one of 4 main pieces on this journey to successful behavior change. Incentives are really just a tiny little slice of a much larger effective approach to getting people to improve their health. Incentives, by definition, the rewards we receive for completing a desired action. Everybody understands that, and we're familiar with these. Water bottles, and we get a T-shirt with a logo on it, and we get a squeeze ball, or it's money, or whatever it is. We've used these incentives. We've been using them for years, and we dangle them out in front of people and hope that they'll have some fun and do some good things. I want to give you some terms to make sure we're all on exactly the same page. I want to share with you some terminology that I think is essential to changing public health and the use of incentives. The first terminology I want you is this mathematical formula. It's simple. It is that our reach, how many people we touch within our organizations, how many people we influence, times the intervention, the dose, the impact, the power at which we impact them. The number of people times the dose of the intervention, the thing that we're doing to them, determines program effectiveness. Okay, where does incentives, and why would we have a discussion about incentives in this process? Where do incentives come into play in this discussion? Remember, reach, how many people do we touch, times impact, large impact or small impact, determines whether or not you have effectiveness. Remember, here's our initial design. We want to change behaviors so we can get to employee-related costs. If we take a look at this process and drop this line down, participation is key to getting people to change behaviors. If you don't get people to participate in your programs, in what you're doing, then very few people are going to change behaviors. Now, we recently participated and worked with a company, advised them on getting people to engage in a wellness program. And they put out some communication materials and they did some things, and it went out to several thousand people, and 19 people signed up. Participation, in this particular case, was very low, rock bottom, almost insignificant. You could surgically alter every person in the group to want to only eat healthy foods going forward, whatever. You could have a crazy intense impact on these 19 people. The results on the entire group of several thousands will be negligible. Impact could be huge if you have a small number of people and nothing happens. Program effectiveness works when we have a lot of people engaged in a highly impactful intervention. Now we're going to have a large impact. Incentives impact participation. This is where the motivation piece of our pie slides into our little design here. When we successfully motivate people with the use of incentives or whatever that might be, we get them to participate. Now, we've conquered the reach part of the equation. Now it's up to you as wellness coordinators, HR directors, brokers, to really come up with either a vendor or some program that's going to now impact those behaviors. So this is where the incentive piece comes in. Oops. The incentive piece impacts participation. Here's another example. Here's a safety group. This is a safety meeting. The guys are getting ready to go to work. They're all there. We go through all these rules and regulations and policies, and we practice some safety things. Safety is critical, okay? There's one person in the room who's listening. This one guy paid attention, and this guy wears his safety equipment and follows his safety rules. How impactful is the safety program? Well, the reach was tiny. We didn't touch very many people. Irregardless of the impact of the safety program, of how effective it was getting people to do safety practices, we're going to have very little overall effectiveness. What you want is you want to touch everybody. An expanded reach, even if you get them just to do a few things, you could have a limited impact, but because you've touched everybody, now we're going to have an effectiveness. Okay, that's reach. Impact, you can have low impact and you can have high impact. Here's a guy who's struggling, and here's a guy who's got a low impact fitness program. Okay, and I'm dramatizing here. He's lifting weights with his finger. How much are we impacting his health? How strong or potent is the intervention? It's not. What we really want is we want him out walking. We want him out doing something that's going to have an impact. So now you understand the equation. Here's where it comes down to you. When reach, as determined by incentives, times impact, with a high impact actually happened, you get a positive ROI. You get a big impact on health, chronic disease, and you get a reduced employee-related expenses. That is why we're having this discussion today. That's why incentives drive participation. When we couple those two pieces together and look, that's reach. Incentives is all about reach. Incentives is all about touching and getting as many people as possible to do something. Now, one more set of terms, and then we'll get into the meat of this. This is a critical one. This is one that we have faltered at in our industry forever. It has to do with participation versus engagement. We did a wellness program at our company, and we have a health risk appraisal, and we got everybody to fill out this paper version of the health risk appraisal that was scanned by our insurance company. A couple of things. First off, I'm glad they participated and finished the health risk appraisal. Second off, the health risk appraisal is a measure of participation. I gave you some data. Now, and by the way, those of you who don't know, looks like the Supreme Court upheld Obamacare in its entirety today with healthcare reform. The mandate will go into effect 2014, and the exchanges, so we're on our way to a pretty dramatic change in our healthcare system. Engagement, typically, from a carrier's perspective, doesn't work. It's mostly participation. We participated in my insurance company's health risk appraisal. Way to go. You just gave them enough data to really more accurately dial in your risk and alter your claims and alter your premiums, because they're going to use that data to fine-tune how much they should be charging you. They didn't tell you that part, did they? So we got participation in a health risk appraisal. Way to go. Did you get engagement? Did people engage in behavior change? After all, that's the foundation of what we're doing, getting people to change behaviors. We've seen some good studies. This is the common one right here. This is the common slide we always see. Cash impacts participation. The impact of cash on incentives. This is a study that's been floating around for a long time. When you don't offer any money, you get 35% people, 40% if you offer 25 bucks, 75, 100, 250, 500. The more money you throw at them, the more people engage. This is based on getting people to complete a health risk appraisal. One example comes to mind. A big legal firm in New York City was engaging in their wellness program, and their wellness person engaged with a broker to try to come up with a good program, and they says, we've got to incentivize these lawyers because they're busy, busy, busy. They don't have much time. So let's give them some money to complete the health risk appraisal. They gave them $500 per employee who completed the health risk appraisal. Well, they got really good participation. Now, this isn't their exact data, but they got about 95% of all the lawyers who actually did it. So they bought access. They spent $500 on this. Good data. Now we know our health risk. We've been able to kind of see where our population's at. Okay, now we're going to start a holiday weight loss challenge with our lawyers. The very first question every single one of them asked was, how much money do I get? How much money are you going to give me? They created an instant entitlement program by doing this. They have no participation. Participation in a health risk appraisal, in my mind, is a terrible barometer of how much impact you're having. Well, we got 99% participation. In what? What did these people do? If they completed a health risk appraisal, I'm not impressed because health risk appraisals don't usually change behavior very much. They're good for awareness. Remember, we have a box there for awareness and education. But it's not this behavior change solution that we're all working towards. Let me give you an example of a company. Now, this is a real company that I have worked with, and they called, Steve, we've got some problems here. We have great participation, but nothing's changing. Our claims aren't changing, and our claims experience, absenteeism has actually gone up, and we've got workers' comp that seems to be trending up, and we've been doing this really aggressively for a long time, and nothing's changed. Well, let's take a look. What did you guys do? Well, in 2005, we offered a health risk appraisal. There was no incentive. We just said we'd kind of like you people to do this. They got 20%. Well, that didn't give what they wanted, so what they did is they ratcheted it up. In 2006, they said, you do the health risk appraisal, we're going to give you $100. $100 went from 20 to 60% of the employees who completed the health risk appraisal. They wanted more. 2007, okay. If you don't do the health risk appraisal and the biometric screening, and if you don't talk to a health coach, it's going to cost you $500. No more give you money. If you do it, we're not going to give you or take away. But if you don't do it, we're actually going to do a payroll deduction of $500. It's a $500 penalty. Boom. We now instantly got 96% participation. We switched from a monetary throw money at you if you do this to, which was carrots, to sticks. If you don't, we're going to beat you with a $500 stick. The next year they said, oh, and by the way, if you don't participate in the HRA, the screening, the coaching, and get your spouse to complete the HRA and do at least one nutrition class, your total premium amount, the total that you pay, is all yours. You're going to pay both the employee and the employer portion, $538 a month. It's going to cost you $538 a month. Boom, participation went up from 96 to 98%, and then they went one step further and said, now you've got to do all that, and you've got to earn some wellness points, and if you don't, you pay the full amount of your insurance, and they got 100% participation. Everybody came out of the woodwork and everybody participated, and I bubbled in my bubble sheet on my HRA, took that phone call from the coach, gave blood begrudgingly, and everybody's participating. Dr. Aldana, we have 100% participation. Great. What level of engagement do you have? Oh, they all do the HRA and they've all done blood screening. No. What kind of behavior change have you seen out of this group? Well, participation without engagement is what we're getting. Participation is really high. Incentives have been used to blow participation out of the park. We have no engagement. Why? Because we understand this model. We've got incentives that are used to get participation, but participation did not result in any kind of behavior change, so we failed to change behavior. Nothing has changed. The participation has been exceptional, but by not doing it the right way, we're not changing behavior, and we've missed the whole purpose for our existence. The incentive structure was poorly designed, poorly implemented, and this whole journey to better employee health and lower employee-related expenses has been thwarted because we stumbled at the very first step. Not only was their incentive program misaligned, but it's really a disincentive program. And that gets us to the discussion of carrots versus sticks. disincentives or incentives. And there's a difference. And there is a place for disincentives. There is a time and a place for sticks. Rarely, but there is a time and a place for sticks. Just to kind of put this into context that I think you understand better. My wife works with horses. She rides and rides and rides and loves to ride, and she's got a lot of friends, and she loves to work with horses. We have a lot of mountains around here, and she's always up in the mountains. She does this thing called round corralling, where she works with them in a round corral like this. This is what she says. People are like horses. You got to make the wrong choice hard and the right choice easy. You got to make it hard for them to do the wrong thing, but you want to make it really easy for them to make the right choice. Now, I know that simplifies this, and we talk about it, but I have seen companies that have done this exceptionally well. You can choose. You are free to choose your behavior. But when you choose a healthy behavior, life gets really good, and people treat you well, and you might get incentives, and you get lots of benefits. If you make the wrong choice, there's probably going to be some strings attached. Well, there's a balance of sticks and carrots in this scenario. One example that I have seen where they used the benefits of the activity, the behavior, were promoted and pushed and encouraged. We studied this group for 3 years. This is a randomized clinical trial where we looked at individuals in the community, middle-aged people who were previously sedentary. We talked to them about all the benefits of being physically active. We said, if you're active, the right choice, you get lots of benefits and lots of improvements in your health. You'll feel better. We go through them all, and we make this easy for you. You pick the right time and the right place. I just want to show you their data. Here's where they are. At baseline, the average person was getting 1,900 steps per week. This is not like 10,000 steps a day. This is 2,000 or 20,000 steps in a week. So they went from 1,900 to 3,400 in 6 weeks. Now, if this incentive makes the right choice easy, they will persist. The behavior will persist. It will continue. If the right choice is hard, what we'll get is a spike. People are really active. There's 364 people in the study, and it'll drop right back off again. Here's what their data look like. Not only was the right choice easy, and not only did they get benefits and incentives for continuing, but it went up from there. 350 people at a year and a half later are more active at the end of 18 months than they were anywhere along the time, because the incentives have moved over to be, well, making the right choice easy. With carrots, with the positive incentives, they are associated with pleasure. Our brains physically alter when we have a pleasurable experience. Our reward systems, clusters in our brain actually begin to fire. And actually it looks like this. We can look at these at MRI. Pleasurable experiences create pleasure sensors to fire, releasing endorphins and pleasure sensing endorphins and or neuroproprioceptors, and we experience pleasure. Exercise might be that. Eating chocolate, having a bowl of ice cream. Troy, are you listening? Chocolate ice cream. That fires off our pleasure sensors. We joke about ice cream because it does just that. Getting a hug, a puppy, sex, lots of things create these pleasure sensors to fire. And they're memorable. They create positive memories. They're enjoyable. They're fun. No one forces you. I do this on my own volition and my own will, and now I want to repeat it because I like the way it made me feel. Now, it sounds very elemental, and it sounds very psychological, all of this. But in reality, we have a lot of people who react to the healthy behaviors because they are reward sensors. They actually fire off in our heads, and we like the way we feel. Carrots have pleasurable memories associated with them. Carrots meaning a positive incentive for a good behavior. Way to go. You are much more likely to consider to continue that if it's a positive relationship versus the sticks. They're based on fear. I'm trying to avoid fear or avoid something bad, so I'm going to beat you with this and try to get you to avoid that behavior. Well, we do this all the time. They can be used to make people behave. Speeding ticket, that's a stick. A speeding ticket, don't speed, I'm going to hit you with this stick, and it's going to cost you, and I'm going to remind you not to do this again. And sometimes we learn pretty good. Sometimes if we touch the stove and it's hot, we get burned, and we go, oh, I remember. I'm not going to do that again. They are associated with negative emotions. They're associated with negative memories. They can work in some situations. What comes to mind when I think about sticks and incentives for sticks is our safety protocol and our safety rules in a lot of companies where safety is an issue. If you don't follow safety protocol, you will be fired. There's no carrots here. There's no, you're doing great, keep up the good work, we love you. No, screw up, you're gone. It's a stick. It's a big stick. It works in some situations. They tend to work more with men than with women, to be honest with you. Sticks work better. Some guys, they need a stick upside the head for them to go, oh, yeah, okay. But they are associated with negative memories. They're only as good as we make them be. How to use sticks to get 100% participation? Well, one way. Offer no health insurance benefits to your employees if they don't complete the health risk appraisal. You don't have to do the health risk appraisal. I've seen this. I see this all the time. Better yet, you don't have to participate in any of the wellness programming. But if you don't get benefits. That's if you work for Cigna, the insurance company, and you're an employee at Cigna, 55,000 associates working for Cigna. If you and your spouse do not engage in the wellness program, you don't get Cigna insurance. Go figure that. That's a big stick. They get a lot of people who participate. No health insurance without completing HRA or wellness programs, or if you don't, and you don't have to, it's your choice, we're going to crank up your premiums unless you participate. So sticks can be used in some settings. I say positive reinforcement is always better. And you can say, when you do engage, we're going to lower the cost of your premium. We're going to offer more benefits. I'll show you some case studies where they've done just that. So rather than saying, don't participate and you get punished, I say, engage and you get rewarded. We're much more able to do that when we do engage. Now, this gets to this discussion of intrinsic versus extrinsic motivators. I asked you all a question at the very beginning of our discussion today, and that was, why do you exercise? Why do you eat a healthy breakfast or a healthy meal? Why do you wear a seatbelt, or why do you not smoke? I'm guessing many of you are just like me. You do things for intrinsic reasons, not extrinsic. The money you get from a wellness program, the t-shirt, the water bottle, the premium discount, those are all external. They exist outside of you, and they come to you from an external source. They're extrinsic. And they are good to begin the process of motivating you to make changes. But they are temporal. They're past. They don't last very long. They tend to wane. I personally love to ride my bike. It's not me. There's a picture I found on the web. I have a road bike, and on at least 4 or 5 days a week, I like to do 20 to 30 miles. I've had my employees and Dr. Adams and others go with me. I like to ride my bike. No one ever gave me a water bottle. No one ever gave me a t-shirt. I didn't get a premium discount. I didn't get $35 per employee per month reduced. No money, no external, and yet I go. There's something about it that motivates me to want to go. Those of you who exercise, maybe I get a runner's high. Maybe it's the time away from my cell phone. Maybe it's time off my rear end from sitting at my desk. But there are inherent personal benefits that I get when I do this. There's another sport that I really like. We get, sometimes in the winters, we get some fabulous snow out here in Utah. Okay, not only am I not getting rewarded externally by doing this snowboarding, but I plunked down $50 at the lift office just for the privilege of being physically active. So think about that. You don't have to incentivize me. In fact, I like this so much, I'm going to give you money just for the chance to do it. I'm going to give you money for fresh fruits and vegetables because I like them so much. I'm going to give you money for equipment to help me go exercise on a regular basis. That's a different way to view this because the extrinsic motivators are not there. These are all intrinsic. The question now is, if we use incentives, they're extrinsic. How do we transition from this external gift or this external motivation to intrinsic? How do we move people to do this for their own internal reasons? So what we have now is our incentives. We're trying to push participation to get people engaged in this whole movement from healthy behaviors to risk to disease. We're trying to engage this process. When we use effective communications, we do something. Incentives become less important. By effective marketing and communication, I'm talking about whatever wellness program you're implementing, whatever program or whatever campaign you're starting, whatever it is. To get people to participate, you've got to speak their language. You've got to sell them on the reasons why their lives will be better if they do this. This is Marketing 101. And by the way, one of our webinars a while ago was Marketing 101. As an academic coming out of academia, I look at this now and I go, man, that's like one of the most important pieces of this entire cog. The most important piece of this whole improving public health is marketing and communication. Because when I do a really good job of really building the case why people should engage, when I do a good job of selling people on this message, they don't care about incentives. An external reward is nice, that's okay, but I like all the other stuff that you keep talking about. It makes this, I want to make this experience emotional to you. I want you to have this gut reaction to why we're doing this. I'm going to communicate the benefits at every single opportunity. Every program announcement, every email, every text message, all the images are correct. The highlights are benefited even during the evaluations. I want you to feel this in your gut and go, dang, I don't like who I am. I don't like the way I feel. This wellness program is going to help me change my life. And yeah, a water bottle's good and I'll take the money. But what I really want is I want a new me. That's motivation. And you can use incentives along the way. Without intrinsic motivation, behaviors will stop. So let me say that again. Unless people internalize the reasons why we want them to have these behaviors, those behaviors will stop. Remove the incentive. Take away the money. And the lawyers in New York City, they're not going there anymore. Why? They don't understand. They don't understand how this is going to affect their lives. They're in it for the money. They're not in it to change their lives and improve their health, to have less chronic disease, to live a longer, high-quality life, or to add 10 to 20 years to their life. Without the intrinsic, without transitioning from external incentives to internal intrinsic incentives, the behavior gets extinguished. In fact, we wrote a paper on that one called Healthy Behavior Decay. How healthy behavior decays over time, because a lot of people who at one time were healthy, depending upon the incentive, when the incentive stopped, it went away. Don't make a big deal out of the incentives. Make a big deal out of the benefits. Give the employees the what's in it for me. Why should I do this? Why? Here's the example for exercise. Sleep better, control your weight, feel better, have more energy, reduce your stress. My spouse thinks I'm a hottie. You know what? Those are big reasons. I just met with a whole bunch of miners. And the miners are pretty active, but they really don't want to have a healthy lifestyle, and they don't really want to get out and get regular physical activity. They're just not motivated. How much money are you going to pay us? How about this? 99% of erectile dysfunction in men is alleviated with regular physical activity. Oh, excuse me, what did you just say? Now I've got a motivation. They don't care about the water bottle and the t-shirt. They're caring about their erectile dysfunction and how that problem can be alleviated when they're regularly physically active. I touched the right area for them to be interested in listening. Now that you've been doing this new behavior for a while, how has your life changed? Make them list their own incentives. We ask this question constantly. Have you experienced any improvements in the health or quality of your life? Is your life better because of this? How has your life improved? Well, I look a lot better. I feel better about myself. I got my picture on the front of this poster down the hall because I went and I lost a whole bunch of weight. This is a little story about a gentleman named Taylor Brown who, in his wellness program, lost 50 pounds and made this poster. It looks great. Had a lot of fun with it. Here's my left descending coronary artery, before on the left, after on the right. I reversed my disease. Wow, that's a big deal. Your one-liners. Who knew vegetables could taste so good? I can walk up a flight of stairs and don't feel exhausted. My blood cholesterol is improved. I don't have to take medication anymore. We got one-liners. These are powerful pieces. Program was great. Lowered my cholesterol, raised my good cholesterol. My doctor says I don't have to do medication anymore. I've got a newsletter that we put these stories in and we tell people about it and we share these messages of intrinsic motivation for people. Or maybe we have a wall of fame where we share praise and we say these people have engaged at this level and this behavior. And as silly as it might seem, it's powerful. Wellness programs with effective engagement and deployment don't need much in the way of incentives. So I just have given you a webinar on incentives that is saying you don't really have to use them that much if you deploy and you do good engagement strategies, communication and marketing. With that, I want to introduce you all to Ali Rickard. Ali, go ahead and unmute your phone. And I want to show you, now that we've talked about a different way of looking at this, I want to show you what Ali has done with a group called MedWest. They're a healthcare provider, hospital employees in, I believe they're in South Carolina, right, Ali?
Yep.
And she is the WellSteps guide that works with this group. I want to just show you in a couple minutes here what this group has done with, one, effective communication up front and dangling some simple incentives out in front, not very expensive, to show you what has happened to this group in terms of engagement. Ali, we'll turn it over to you for a minute.
Great. Thanks, Steve. So I've been lucky enough to work with MedWest, and they have over 800 hospital employees. So as you can see, they're high health risks, mostly female, and have a very high stress environment. So they're one of our turnkey clients, so they participate in our rewards program and our behavior change campaigns as well. So here in their rewards program, you'll notice each month they have there's about 50 points worth of healthy activities that they can participate in. So they would log into our program center and then they can just check off any of these healthy behaviors that they've participated in. So you simply just hit the check mark and then you click submit so they could get all of those points for this month. And then we have 4 behavior change campaigns each year. So you can see the behavior change campaigns are worth a lot more points. So they know if they want to reach the gold level in our rewards program center that they would have to participate in all of those campaigns. So you'll notice when they check these ones off, they say pending, so we can go in and verify and make sure that they actually completed the campaigns on our end. And then they click submit. Once we verify, they get those points. So they're earning all these points for the rewards levels. So the reward levels, they have the gold, which is 2,000 points. So that's $37 insurance premium discount per pay period. So that's the gold, they get that $37. Silver, they get the $25 insurance premium discount per pay period. And then the bronze, they'd get a $13 insurance premium discount per pay period, which is great. And they've had really high participation because of these incentives and because of the behavior change campaign. So they have 96.4 engaged, which is awesome. So how they communicate this to their employees is, WellSteps, we send posters and emails so they use those, and I was talking with the coordinator, and additionally they send communication home to all of the employees, and then they have voluntary meetings held at each location that will be face-to-face discussions about the rewards program and behavior change campaigns. And then also the coordinator told me that the employees know there's a wellness program, so they expect to participate, engage, and they all really like it. And then also, because of the insurance discount for participating, that's another reason that she said really drives people to participate in the campaigns and engage in the rewards program.
So tell us what you mean by engage. When we say somebody is engaged, what does that mean, Allie?
So for the campaigns, we have our online program center. So each week they'll actively go in and log in and participate in the behavior change campaigns. So there's simple tasks each week that they'll do, and then they go back at the beginning of the next week and report on how they did, and then get their new task for the week ahead. And then also with rewards, they are logging in every month and checking off the boxes or the activities that they completed those healthy behaviors each month.
Very good. Now I want you to stick around at the end, Allie. Here we might have some questions for you from the audience. So
Great.
I showed this little example, and I wanted Allie to come share this with you. I'm going to confess, this is not typical. Most of the companies that I look at as a consultant or Troy looks at that we work with, I almost never see a carrot-based program that gets 96% engagement along the way. I see sticks, and they see them beat the people into submission, and they get 100%, but they don't engage. They're not completing, they're just going through the motions because they have to. Their hands are being forced. So I think this is an atypical, but it's a great case study to look at the different things that they did to make this work. Very effective communication, really good leadership, very simple administration of the program. And what Allie failed to mention is at the end of every campaign, of the campaigns this group is doing, we offer out these really simple little incentive gift cards, like $25 gift cards for this group. I don't know how many were handed out, but they're randomly done. You know, it's a couple $100 that we randomly assign gift cards at the end of every campaign. So there's rewards at the end, and there's also some little tiny rewards along the way that they have fun with. So that's part of that. What should you incent? What kinds of things should be on that list of things that they should incent? If you look at our design again, one of the things I see most often that concerns me a lot is they incent the health risk appraisal. We got to get people to do the health risk appraisal, so we got to throw a bunch of money at it so we, administrators, wellness people, brokers, can get data. A health risk appraisal is not a behavior change tool. It's a data collection tool. It might get some behavior change, but it's very limited. It doesn't have the same kind of impact. When I bubble in a sheet that asks questions about my health and I get some feedback, generally, they're not telling me anything I don't already know. It's a good data collection tool, so great, leave it at that. This year's COOP applicants, we're reviewing the applicants, and I'm on the board, and what I've done is I took this year's and last year's, and one of our WellSteps guides, Melinda Tuttle, spent an awful lot of time and created this amazing sheet. This is the 16 applicants that were there. The names have been removed. But what I wanted you to see, and I put this up on our website at the WellSteps webinars, wellsteps.com webinars, today's webinar, this is just their incentives and their requirements. So here's 16 incentive programs from 16 of the best programs in the country on what they're doing for their incentives. And a health risk appraisal is almost on every single one. But it's combined with other more important behavior-based activities. If it's just to incent the health risk appraisal or the PHA, it's a waste of money, in my opinion. If you want to bundle that together with other behavior change things, that's it. So what should you incent? Well, not the health risk appraisal by itself, because the health risk appraisal is not a wellness program. You should incent behaviors, weight loss, biometric screening, flu shots, exercise, whole grain consumption. You get the idea. Any healthy behavior could be incentive, because that's what we need to change. We need to change behavior, so let's incent the behavior. What are some of the favorite incentives? Well, there was a good study by Deloitte & Touche that looked at this and asked, what do people like to get for incentives? Gift prizes, gym memberships, copay waivers, deductibles, contribution to an HSA, lower my premiums. You want to know what the best incentive is for your employee? Ask them. make a couple suggestions. We got this, and this. Pick one. Paid time off, depending on the workforce, sometimes paid time off is huge. It is the most powerful thing you can give people. And money doesn't buy success. There's other things that you can do to get people engaged. Gift cards are cheap, they're inexpensive, and they're given out randomly. Not everybody's going to get one. You're going to get a chance to win one. If we look at them by group, some are taxable incentives. They're taxable cash, gift cards, discounts, achievement awards, season tickets. Those are all taxable events. I'll be honest with you. We've never got any letters or heard of any companies that have had the IRS show up and say, whoa, wait a minute. Didn't you hand out a couple of Amazon.com $25 gift cards? We're going after those. I know you're supposed to report taxes and individuals. I leave it up to the individual. It's unreported income. You count it. I wash my hands of it. Life goes on. I know it's probably not the perfect way to do it, but anyway, it works. Non-taxable incentives, premium deductions, deductions for their plan, contributions to a health savings account. So there's other ways to do that if you want to do more. Healthcare reform, by the way, big news today. Obamacare's Affordable Care Act has been accepted in its entirety. What does that mean for you? It means that the amount of incentive that you can pay for employees is going to go from 20 to 30 and possibly up to 50% of the total health care amount. Now, let me just explain this. The average employee spends about $10,000 a year on health care. With the new law, it is now legal to incentivize employees with up to 30% of that amount, which is $3,000 per year. You could throw $3,000 a year at employees who will engage and participate. You know what? Medwest, the company we just worked with, spent a fraction of that. You could take this limit to 100% of your healthcare dollars as the amount you can use to incentivize. It's meaningless. If you do this well, who cares what this percentage amount is, because it doesn't cost nearly that to properly incentivize, albeit motivate people to do this. So for all intents and purposes, this whole business of what's the cap and how much can I donate, it's irrelevant, because you can get tremendous behavior change and not have to spend anywhere near 30% of what you're spending on healthcare. If you're a very successful large company, you've got the cash on hand and you want to roll it out to your employees and give it out, great. You ought to consider a profit sharing plan also. So from the management perspective, here's a couple of ideas. First off, produce changes in behavior, risk, and employee-related costs. These incentives want to change risk, cost, and behavior. You want them to be easy to administer, track, and communicate. It must be a small part of the whole program. It's not, an incentives program is not a wellness program. Here's one. I got this from one of the companies I worked with. This was their description of their incentive program. Complicated, ugly, lots of fine charts and categories and acronyms, and holy cow, reminded me of doing my 401k, reminded me of doing my taxes. You know what? This is what we did. Hi, Bob. Here's an email. It's from Wealth Steps. Improve your health, win great prizes. Hey, Bob, get better health and lower weight when you participate. It's time to report your wellness points. And Bob goes, click. And he clicks that button. And what you don't know is behind that button, because it went to Bob, is his login and his passwords already embedded. So when he clicks that button, he automatically logs into his program center and he goes, oh, look, my program center. I'm right here. I'm just going to go, oh, okay, attended the lunch and learn, physically active, watch the video, click, 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 submit. I'm done. That simple. The data's there and it's ready to go. That removes the headache from having your employees to wade through this. It's just terrible. This in itself is a barrier to participation, at least in my mind. So a couple of case studies and we'll wrap it up real quick. I'm going to show you this one. This is a banking system, a system of banks in Mississippi. Gave the employees the option. You can use our standard insurance plan, or you can get the wellness plan that has lower premiums, higher deductibles, lower premiums, higher coverages, versus the standard plan, which has higher premiums and lower coverages if you participate. Take the PHA, engage in the behavior change campaigns, and maybe do the biometric screening, participate in any number of activities, get a certain number of points, and you're going to get it. What happened? 96% participation, 86% earned the full incentive. Here's their healthcare cost trend before their program started. That's when their wellness program started. That's the actual regional increase in healthcare costs. This is the increased cost for this bank and all their 900 employees. They bent the trend. They bend the trend when they do this. Lastly, and I want to show this last one here. I'm going to skip forward here on this one. Putting it all together. Let's talk about this. Communication has got to show the benefits. It's got to show why this is important to me. Posters that show the benefits, tabletop tents, emails, benefit, 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 benefit. Oh, by the way, there's a little incentive here. The incentives can be given out at the end of the first campaign and the second campaign. These are gift cards. And the third campaign, another one. We can do it again for the next campaigns for the year, with some big one at the end, like Midwest, where they get a premium discount when you do it all. Little rewards along the way, big reward out at the end, everybody's happy. When they do this, that $25 gift card, behavior change, engagement, 75 to 100% engagement, not just participation, engagement. And of course they complete the health risk appraisal. In fact, ours is built into the registration process. It's 3 simple pages long, 24 questions. Boom, I'm done. I'm out of there. Non-issue. So to summarize, these incentives must be part of a larger wellness effort. They got to be directly linked to intrinsic motivators. Benefit, benefit, benefit. Perceived as being worthwhile. It's worth it for me to do this. They got to be really simple to do, really simple to understand, and crazy easy to report. It's got to be fun. We have fun. We're firing off the pleasure sensors of a person's mind, and they'll be back. They will do this again, and when they're linked to healthy behaviors. And next month, by the way, Troy and I have spent an awful lot of time thinking about this business of health risk appraisals. I've tried to build the case for when they do well and when they don't do well, the do's and don'ts. But next month on the 26th, OMG, your HRA is MIA. Oh my gosh, your health risk appraisal is missing in action. You can make this thing work for you. It's easy to do. There's plenty of do's and don'ts. And Dr. Troy Adams knows as much about this as anybody. He's going to give us a real good overview of what we can do to make this thing work to change behavior and change employee-related expenses. And with that, got a few questions, and I know I've gone a little bit too long today. Ryan, Troy?
Yeah. Well, you've done such a great job, such a thorough job. You've answered a lot of the questions that have come in, as as you've gone along. One question we had from Vanessa, you emphasize the importance of marketing and communications, especially to increase engagement. And she wanted to know specifically, how much variety should there be in marketing the benefits of engagement in the program? Should it be a very focused message that you repeat throughout the year, or is it best to switch up the message during the year?
The overall message never changes. I want to improve my health and I want to live a long, healthy life. That message never changes. It's the same one that runs through everything that you do. It's all focused towards that. However, if we're going to have a program on healthy eating or a program on stress reduction, there are benefits associated with that specific program, and they should be marketed and pushed with that particular campaign. But don't lose focus of the goal. The goal is to improve and lengthen the quality and length of a person's life.
Great. One other thing is, there are some questions, there's some research out there about, randomizing the incentives or changing the intervals at which incentives are given. How should that be implemented into the incentive programs that they're trying to develop?
I agree. It's good to keep things fresh, change things up a little bit, but two guiding principles. People are like horses. We want to make it easy. We want to make it immediate. So an incentive that's short-term along the way. In other words, we can we do a short campaign, 3 or 4 weeks, 5 weeks. There's an incentive drawing at the end of that period, and winners are announced, and it goes out, and it costs very little. That's a quick, short-term fix, and most of us in America have a very short, we have the attention spans of a gnat. We can think about things for about a millisecond. So those short-term incentives are powerful to keep people on track. All the while, they're working towards something bigger at the end. A benefits plan design change, or a reduction on their premium, or a discount, or some other larger benefits-based, like HR, resources, a benefit structure-based incentive, positive incentive at the end. A big goal at the end, but little rewards along the way is the best option. And you can change it up, and it's good to change it up, offer different things along the way. That's the best summary of those clinical trials that have kind of been looked at this.
Okay, maybe a last question, very simple, is, you know, for someone who hasn't been offering incentives up to this point, where would you recommend that they get started in incorporating incentives into their wellness program?
Talk with your wellness committee, talk with your wellness coordinators, talk with your broker, decide what's an appropriate incentive, what to incent, how to track it, and get started. Talk to your committee. Don't let them punish people and use too many sticks. We want to use carrots and lead them along the way, but if it's their program, let them have ownership. Let them decide what those should be. Work with management to figure out what's an appropriate way to do this, and get started. And you can start small. You can start really small. Just offer one simple drawing for one simple program participation, but think it through. How are you going to administer it? How will you verify who's done what? How will you be able to track it? That's what our rewards tracker does so well. It's magic. It's click, I'm done, here's a report. There's no one spending any time going through sheets, paper, tracking it.
Do we have time for any more?
You can email them to me, and I'll get them. Steve@wellsteps.com. If you have your other questions you wanted to get but didn't get time to, Steve@wellsteps.com. I think we're going to wrap it up and let people get on their way.
Hey, Steve, just one more note about the webinar recording. A lot of people may have joined late. This webinar has been recorded and will be posted in about 2 or 3 hours on our website. Just go to wellsteps.com/webinars or click on the webinar button on the front page. While you're in there downloading the slides or listening to the recording, also register for the upcoming webinar next month, OMG or HRA is MIA.
Thanks, Troy. Thanks, everyone.